So the question was to answer this problem. If you flip a coin 3 times, what are the possible outcomes? And for part 2, what is the probability of landing on tails 3 times?
So over here, so the first one, would be 3 tails, 3 heads. So this over here, we all did it in our heads. We just had to make sure that there's 3 coin flips. So like 2 plus 1 equals 3. The same thing here, and there's already 3 here and 3 here. And what we did over here, so we looked at these numbers and we just said that there has to be 2 tails. So we put a tail in a specific place, and then we put 1 head, and then we had to make sure all of these 3 were different, and we did the same thing over here.
Okay, great. And what about part 2? What was the probability of getting tails 3 times in a
So
row?
what we did, we got 1, 8, because there's 1 outcome over here, 3 tails, and there are a total of 8 outcomes. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and then so we got 1, 8. So then to get a decimal, what we did, since fraction is dividing, we did 1 divided by 8, which was 0.125. So that would be the decimal. And to get percent, we multiplied this by 100. It's 12.5%. Or we did the other way, cross multiplying. We did that too.
Right.
And then we got the ratio was 1 for 7. So there's 1 chance. This is 1 chance for getting tails, and there's 7 other outcomes winning.
Okay.
Yeah, and the reason we didn't do 1 for 8, because then if you put it into a fraction, it'll be 1 over 9, and there's not 9 outcomes, there's only 8, so we did 1 for 7.
Okay. And so did you determine that it was likely or unlikely to get 3 tails?
It was unlikely because the percent of getting tails was 12.5, which is closer to 0 than it is to 100%.
Great answer. Did anybody use a different method to get their answer? Elias, what did you guys do? Yeah, for sure. It's good to know some different ways of doing this. There might be one that you find easier than the others.
For the first question, we did this to make it easier.
So what did you guys do?
At first, we went to find out different things that we can get on our first flip. So, for example, we could have gotten heads on our first flip. We could have gotten heads on our second flip and heads on our third flip. We did it this way at first, but then we thought it was too hard to understand, so we decided to try and make it easier. So to do that, we did this, and it's basically the same thing as this, except you organize it better.
Okay, so you put it into a chart for some organization. That's good. And your answer was also 1 over 8 for the probability of getting tails?
Yeah.
Good stuff. Thank you. So that was a nicely organized chart. Did anybody do anything else? Could you show us the tree diagram that you guys did? This is a really good method that you guys are going to be working on a bit.
Here's a tree diagram. This is make a tree head, tails, a tree type, and then this is a head, tail, head, and then this is a head, tail, head. This is the head, tail, tail. This is the tail, head. This is a tail, head, and this is a tree, right? Is a outcome of the probability. This is the probability is h over 1 over 8. This is a 1, and I won. 1 over 8 is precisely is 100 hour equals
Okay. Yeah, so 1/8 is the fraction, right?
Yeah.
That's great. So there are 3 parts. There's 3 rows on the diagram because you flipped 3 times,
Yeah.
right? So the first time it could be heads or tails. And then the second time there's 2 different options. So it could have been heads or tails the second time, heads or tails the second time, and then in the end, there are 8 different combinations because you go down here to find the combination. So here, like you said, there was heads, 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 or heads, heads, tails. And then in the end, you can use this diagram to figure out all of the different combinations. Good job. Thanks for explaining that. So using tree diagrams might take some practice, but it's a really good way to make sure that you remember all the different combinations. Because sometimes it can get confusing, or it's easy to list the same combination more than once. Allie, did you want to add something?
We did ratios.
Sure. Do you want to show us what you did?
So what we did was that since the numbers of the outcomes we found in the last questions were 8, and one of them were all of 8, so one was all tails, so 1 over 8, and the ratio we got is 1 to 7 because the 1 represents all tails. Like over here, this is the one outcome, that possible outcome. So this is the amount of outcomes we found. So the rest of them. So our ratio was 1 to 7. We think that it is equally likely to get heads and tails.
Right, so if you only flip the coin one time, it would be equally likely to get heads and tails. But once you start flipping more than once, the probability of getting all tails goes down because there's more combinations that are a mixture of heads and tail, right? So this is great. The ratio is there's 1 combination that's all tails, and there are 7 combinations that are not all tails. Good job. Great work with the ratio.